All right, it's Wednesday, and so Abram, like, he has this promise he's going to be a great nation, and then he has this problem, no heir, and God says, "I'm going to give you a son." So he has all this trusting obedience, and you know what happens in chapter 16? He is now in the land for 10 years. He's in Canaan. He's in this place that God led him from his hometown to go to this place, this land that was going to be for his people, and this nation, like the stars in the sky, is going to populate this land. He's going to be Father Abraham. But in the moment, he doesn't know he's going to be Father Abraham. He's fatherless Abram. And he's been in this land for 10 years. And oh, by the way, him and his wife are old, like really old. So, how's trusting obedience working for Abram in chapter 16? Not so good. And here's why. Let me read the text to you. Genesis 16:1 says this. Now, Sarai, this is Abram's wife, had borne him no children. Okay. But she had an Egyptian slave named Hagar. So she said to Abram, the Lord has kept me from having children. So go sleep with my slave. Perhaps I can build a family through her. And Abram agreed to what Sarah said. All right. So, wow. Maybe for some of you heard this for the very first time, you're like, wow, that's crazy. Well, one of the things I love about the Bible is that the Bible does not sugarcoat humanity and all of our inadequacies and all of our sin and all the ways in which we try to control the outcomes. And this is the lesson I think we need to really latch on to today. And that's simply this. It's why do we have this tendency to want to control the outcomes? And I think the answer to that is because we lack, or our trusting obedience is depleted when we don't see the promise coming about, whether it's a timeline issue or whether it's a trial that we're facing or whatever it is. And then all of a sudden we want to control. And the more we control, the less God has control through us. And his history through our lives begins to cease, or it needs to get rerouted. But every time we stop trusting him, we have a greater chance of making poor choices and really reaping those consequences, such that God has to redirect in a way that accommodates and really works that into his purpose. How he does that, I don't understand that. But I've experienced that in my own life. And so will Abram as he goes on, because Abram will have another son. His son's name is Ishmael from Hagar. This will always be deep division that plays out even to today. Okay. That's the ramifications of his choice of not having trusting obedience and trying to control the outcome. Now, thankfully, God did give Abram a son by Sarah, and his name was Isaac. All right, so there's a lot there. So what's the lesson? Stop controlling the outcomes. Release control. Simply continue to trust God and say, God, I'm just going to trust you. Here's the key word: today. Trust is a daily surrender to say, God, I am trusting you today. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to look at the promise that God gave you and the problem where you are and saying, God, I'm trusting you for the promise, because I believe that you want to make history in my life. I love you. I'll see you tomorrow on the Daily Dose.